Hello and welcome to CEAZOR Snack Sandwich. Today we're going to take a look at inverse finance. Now, inverse finance is quite a project. It's been around for quite some time. I remember inverse project back when I was watching Gabriel Haynes' videos a long time ago, back in December 2020. So quite a while, more than a year ago, these guys have been building stuff on DeFi and chugging along. Now, the project that he talked about then and the project that they have now is quite different. They are still doing what they did then, but they're doing a lot more now. And today I'm going to talk about what it is and what's inside. I'm just going to use the app and explain things as we go through. But basically, they have a stable coin, a lending and borrowing platform, and then these dollar cost averaging vaults. Okay, so let's swing into the app, and then I'll show you a few key features inside there. So here are the three main products that they have, the three main things that you need to worry about. And then they have governance and this transparency thing that you can click on to see the different contracts and stuff like that. So let's start with the easiest one, and this is the swap. Now, what is the swap? You have two choices to swap. Now, like I said, Inverse Finance produces the DOLA stablecoin. It's a US dollar pegged stablecoin, and there are two ways to swap for it. One is via the stabilizer. So if you wanted to swap, let's say, from DOLA to DAI, or from DAI to DOLA, then you could do so here. And there's zero slippage, but there is a fee of 0.4%. Now, basically what this is when they first issued the DOLA token, they wanted it to be 100% backed by DAI so that, to build trust. So they built up this war chest of DAI here, which is like almost $4 million worth of DAI. And it's basically just sitting in this contract for anybody who wants to come and swap swap DOLA for DAI. So let's say DOLA is below peg. So you can go to somewhere else like Curve Finance. You can buy DOLA below peg and you can come here and get DAI just 1-to-1, because this will consider DOLA worth $1, even though Curve Finance considers it worth something like, 92 cents or something, right? So that's just kind of like what they call the stabilizer, a way to help to maintain the peg in the times when the dollar token does go down below peg, if it were to do so. Now, there's of course Curve. Now you could go to Curve Finance directly by just going to Curve Finance, clicking on this, and then you could swap DOLA for the three pool tokens of DAI, USDC, and USDT here. And so you could do it on there, but you can also just do it straight here in the UI by just basically saying, oh, I have DOLA and I want to swap it for USDC, or vice versa, right? Or some other way, right? Through Curve or via the stabilizer and using DAI, right? Now they might have other ones inside the stabilizer, so let's check. No, they only have DAI. So there's only DAI on the stabilizer. So anyways, so that's the swap. The swap is very straightforward, very easy, very clear to understand. So let's go to the vaults, because the vaults are also quite easy to understand and pretty interesting. Now, basically what the vault is you choose one of the tokens, a stable coin, either DAI or USDC, and you deposit it inside here based on a token that you want to buy. So what is it going to do? It's going to take your DAI, it's going to send the DAI out into DeFi and earn approximately 5.9%, 5.69%. And then it's going to use that 5.69% to, or in this case, USDC 4.31% to buy ETH. So let's say I were to put $20,000 in here. Then my $20,000 is safe. I will always be able to come back and withdraw my $20,000 of USDC. However, anytime that there's a yield, then this yield will be used to buy ETH. Or if I change this to, well, I guess I can't do it. With DAI and WBTC, I can use this to buy WBTC or YFI tokens. So it's a way for you to dollar cost average into these tokens over a long term using nothing but your yield. So you don't risk your initial capital. Okay? So anytime you want, you can come and claim the tokens that you have earned, or you can withdraw your initial capital here as well. So that's the vaults, and that's basically what Gabriel Haynes talked about in his video a long time ago, but that's basically still what they're running here. Now, this is where things get a little tricky and a little A little more complicated, but still super interesting. So this is basically a lending borrowing platform. However, it's also the place where they mint DOLA token. Okay, so as a user, basically you can come here with any of these assets, right? Any of these assets that you find, like maybe X Sushi, which is a good one because it is yield bearing and so forth. And then you could come with an SLP, the inverse token, which is their governance token versus dollar SLP. And you can use these tokens as collateral to basically mint or borrow a dollar. But the APR is variant, okay? This APR will change based on supply and demand. However, the protocol itself can mint dollar at any time to manage these APRs and APYs so that they can supply dollar to this in order to keep this from going astronomical and making it unappealing for people. However, they can also not probably pull and burn to bring it up if it's super, super low, right? So to make it appealing for the people to lend, right? Because this lending APY here is based on people borrowing. So as more and more people put dollar in here, then they're also lending to the people who basically want to mint, right? So you can think of it as if you want dollar, you can bring these tokens to collateralize your dollar, and then you borrow it from whoever, whether it's the protocol supplying or whether it's other users supplying dollar here. Okay, so when you get dollar, if you were to supply like inverse token, you're going to get 38% on your inverse token, and you're going to have to pay 4% on your dollar. But then you can take the dollar out into DeFi and use it, right? Or you can even sell it for USDC and use that, right? Or put it into this 3-pool dollar token on Curve and stick it in here and gain this reward. Now these reward tokens are basically, they're incentivizing people to basically, put their tokens in here, and they're going to give them inverse tokens, right? And it's just reward. This is the governance token reward on top of the borrowing reward. Okay, so also if you have dollar and you wanted to like maybe short ETH, you could use your dollar or any of these other assets, right, to borrow ETH and then sell the ETH. And when ETH goes down in value, you'll buy it back and pay off your debt, right? So this is also a borrowing and lending platform on top of this, okay? I think it's pretty interesting. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here is, there's a few more things I'm going to talk about. This inverse token here is also the staking of the inverse token. So like, if you take sushi to SushiSwap and you stake it, you get protocol fees, right? And that comes in the system of the way of X sushi. So you stake sushi, you get X sushi, and then they give you more sushi on top, right? But here, when you put inverse token in here, then it becomes X inverse in a way. And then you're going to get this APY based on like rewards, like based on the basically staking the governance token. And then you can also use this to borrow DOLA or one of these other tokens if you want to do that. So there's a lot going on here, but it's pretty simple. It's all time-tested stuff. It's just kind of like they've taken a few ideas from different places and put them together into this one system. And I really like this. I think it's interesting. This Floki thing's a bit strange, but if you go to governance, where's the governance? If you go to governance, you can see that they did set the Floki collateralization to 0. So they're basically, the reason why it's still there is because there is some outstanding debt or outstanding, people borrowed DOLA or some of these other tokens versus their Floki. So they're hoping that they will come back soon and do it. And if you do read through this Floki thing, it does say that they're eventually going to get liquidated if they don't do it soon enough, right? Now this happened on January 22nd. That was like maybe 2 weeks ago, right? Now, governance is pretty good. As you can see, the voting has got like, 10K, 15K, 4K. It's a fair amount of good votes, like it's not, 30, 40, 200, 300. So it's a pretty active community, and everything is done with snapshot voting, on-chain voting. So like when I told you that the protocol can do some interesting things, let's go to the docs here and talk about some of the things that the protocol can do that is interesting, okay? So one of the things that they tout here is that they can do protocol to protocol lending. So they can, because they have kind of like the protocol itself, the DAO, through voting, through on-chain voting, they can allow certain protocols that have like good track record to borrow in the same way, similar to the way Iron Bank does it. And they can borrow DOLA, and then they can use that dollar as collateral to borrow other assets, or they can just use that dollar to do what they want to do with it. But it doesn't say here that they'll be able to sell it. So I guess they could use that dollar. So let's say there was like Yearn or some yield aggregator wanted some more ETH, right? To put into the vault to leverage up their ETH. So they could then ask these guys, hey, can you give us dollar? They will supply dollar here and then borrow this ETH. And then use that ETH to pay. And then, it's all smart contracts. So it's not like, a person's wallet, right? And then it would get sent back and the dollar will get burned that was supplied and lent, right? So this is the protocol to protocol lending. Now, because they can do protocol to protocol lending, they could possibly do a like under collateralized lending as well. So if they assessed some individual or some other protocol as not such a high risk, then they could give them a loan of DOLA that is, partially collateralized instead of over collateralized, and then just use the INV token as like a backstop if there is the need to liquidate those positions. Now, this is the last one I want to talk about that kind of took me a little bit of time to read through, and it's pretty interesting. And basically what it says is that the DAO itself since they can mint dollar and they can supply dollar and they can borrow dollar from themselves, then they can basically lend themselves dollar, take that dollar out into DeFi, make yield, and then bring that yield back to the DAO. And then they can also use that yield to buy back tokens, the inverse tokens, to subsidize this 38% here and change this to whatever they thought important. Okay, so everything's all here in one place. And I like this. This is the yield farm for the LP. So you can get the yield farm rewards by supplying here, 300%. And then you can also use this as collateral to borrow dollar. So if I click on this and we go down, let's check out the collateral ratio. Collateral ratio is 70%. So you can borrow up to 70%. And if you borrow, if you hit 70%, then you're going to get liquidated. However, the price oracle is on CoinGecko. So be careful, right? So anyhow, don't go too degen, but you could borrow 30% probably fairly safe, but you would have to manage it and stuff like that. Watch it closely, right? So anyhow, I like this protocol. I think it's pretty interesting, and it's on Ethereum. So if you're going to use it, know that it's on Ethereum. You're going to have to pay gas and stuff like that. So thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.